Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April 17th episode of the Bacon Bets Podcast, the NHL Playoff Preview episode of the Bacon Bets Podcast. Better late than never. The NHL Playoffs going to start in about, 8-9 hours time? By the time you're listening to this, probably about 4 or 5 hours time. So let's get through this. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible here. I'm going to break down my best bet to win each series in the first round of the NHL playoffs. 16 teams, 8 series bets. Then I'm going to show you my bracket for the NHL playoffs, which includes how long each game in the first round of the playoffs will last. So let's get right into it. I don't know. I don't think there's any specific order. I think the order of the series I'm going to go through, I think it was just the order that the sportsbook listed them at, because they're not in chronological order. We're not going east versus west. We're just going to go a little bit of a random order. Starting off with the most obvious pick of the first round of the NHL playoffs, I will take the Boston Bruins minus 320 against the Panthers. And if you're watching the YouTube version of this, apparently the Panthers, according to the graphic. By the way, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you very much. Bruins minus 320. I have talked about the Bruins a number of times throughout the season, and it's still kind of the same old with the Bruins. They're a team that I find very frustrating. I've tried to bet on them plenty of times throughout the season to no avail because when you look at the advanced analytics, they actually don't rank that high. They're around the middle of the pack, somewhere around 8th, 9th, 10th. Better than average in advanced analytics like Corsi percentage, Fenwick percentage, expected goals for and against, high danger scoring chances. But they are third in the NHL this season in shooting percentage and first in save percentage. So you can make up for some lacking in more advanced numbers if you just simply score on a high percentage of your shots on net and stop a high percentage of your opponent's shots on net. Sometimes it is that easy, but I'm married to the advanced analytics, and that's why I've tried to bet on them a lot to no avail. I think maybe I should just, moving forward, should I just not look at advanced numbers and literally only look at shooting percentage and save percentage? Now there is a stat that some hockey analytics people like called PDO, which combines shooting percentage and save percentage. Now some people look at that stat as a quote-unquote luck percentage. I don't know if that's fair, considering I don't think shooting well and playing great, play in between the pipes with their goalies is necessarily luck. But usually you see some kind of regression in those areas. And the Bruins, when you look at the NHL standings for that stat PDO, first, and it's not even close, first by a mile in PDO, 1 point. So if the stat comes out to 1.000, then that's the average. That's where, based on the stat, you're supposed to regress at some point to 1.00. So if you're above that, you're lucky. If you're below that, you're unlucky. At least people who believe in the stat, that's what they think. Bruins, first in the NHL at 1.035. The next best team in PDO is the Islanders at 1.015. So they're head and shoulders above the rest of the NHL in PDO. Now, does that matter? Is that going to come up and catch them in the NHL playoffs? Time will tell. Maybe they'll just ride hot shooting and hot goaltending all the way to the cup. But I'm not as big of a believer in the Bruins as most people are. And yes, that might be because I'm wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. But, I'm married to the advanced analytics. Everyone says that they're the best team in the NHL, that they just dominate every game they play in. If they did, they would lead the NHL in Corsi percentage, Fenwick percentage, expected goals percentage, and high danger scoring chances. The fact of the matter is they're just a really, really good shooting team, and they have had the best goaltending in the NHL. Linus Ullmark led the NHL both in goals against average and save percentage, and their backup goalie, Jeremy Swayman, has been putting up fantastic numbers as well. Now, with all that being said, I don't think the Panthers is a team to beat them. The Panthers are terrible defensively. They have had some good goaltending from Alex Leon lately, but I don't think that's going to be enough. At the end of the day, the Bruins team, even the advanced numbers, are better than Florida's numbers. Now, if the Florida Panthers want to win this series, they got to just score a ton of goals because they are a high-powered offense. Maybe with this being Linus Ullmark's first postseason, I believe. As I'm saying that doesn't sound right, but I think it's his first postseason. Maybe the pressure is going to get to him a little bit. Maybe a little bit of some implosion from a goaltender who doesn't have quite the experience as some other goaltenders in the postseason. That's the Panthers' best hope. But I'm not willing to take a shot at them as an underdog. The Bruins are the pick to make in that first series. So I'll go Bruins minus 320 against the Panthers. We're going to stay in the Eastern Conference. We're going to look at the Battle of the Hudson River. The New Jersey Devils against the New York Rangers. I'm going to take the Rangers as slight underdogs. This is the closest series of the bunch when it comes to betting odds. Devils minus 120, Rangers plus 100. But not a lot of people are talking about how well Shesterkin has played as of late. Shesterkin led them as the Eastern Conference final last year, I believe. We've seen it time and time again. Teams with great goaltending can just carry a team all the way to a Stanley Cup final and sometimes to a Stanley Cup ring. Shesterkin, for the majority of the year, was not playing as well as he had last year, but he has got hot. He had a .932 save percentage in March, a .941 save percentage in April. So I can forgive the subpar play, at least by Shesterkin standards, for the first 2/3 of the season, because the last third of the season he has been on absolute fire. And one weakness that the Devils have, it's kind of weird to talk about now after the Devils really dominated for the majority of the NHL season, is don't forget this team does not have a lot of experience in the playoffs. This is a very young team, a team that wasn't even supposed to be good for another couple of years. This was a surprising outcome. They were one of the longest odds to even win their division. Now, they didn't win their division. They finished second to the Hurricanes, but this Devils team is young, inexperienced in the postseason, and that might come back to haunt them, especially against a Rangers team that does have that playoff experience, a Rangers team that did go on a run last year. Now, if you do want to look at the advanced analytics, the Devils did lead the NHL in expected goals percentage over their last 25 games when you look at 5-on-5 venue and score adjusted numbers, but 19th in shooting percentage and 20th in team save percentage. So not great shooting numbers, not great goaltending numbers, which may come back to haunt them here in the playoffs. This is a toss-up. If you want to take the Devils, I wouldn't argue against it too much. But I will take the Rangers as very small underdogs of plus 100 to win their first round series. Next up, I got a couple underdogs here. No one's going to like this pick, and I'm probably going to look stupid here in about a week or so, but I will take the Seattle Kraken in the Western Conference to upset the defending champs, the Colorado Avalanche. Now, I will say a caveat before I dive into this too much. Last year before the playoffs, I said the Colorado Avalanche were the worst value bet to win the Stanley Cup. I said, do not bet on them. I think I picked against them almost every single round. And what did they do? They went on and won the Stanley Cup and made me look like an all-time moron. So I might just be an Avalanche hater. But I don't think it's too offside for me to say that the Avalanche aren't the same Avalanche team from last year. Gabriel Landeskog, who was supposed to be back in February or March, hasn't put on his skates all season. He has now officially been ruled out for the entire NHL postseason. They haven't gotten the goaltending that they had last year. Their depth, they have some depth issues. No Nazem Kadri this year, who was huge in the playoffs for them last year. Now, they may go on and win the series, and they should be favored, but I think they are too big of favorites. I think they're overvalued both in the futures market and in this market to win the first round series. And it's a lot closer than you might think, actually, if you look at over the last 25 games for the Kraken and the Avalanche. In 5-on-5 venue and score adjusted expected goals percentage, Kraken 8th in the NHL at 55.2%, Avalanche 11th at 54.64%. So over the last 25 games, expected goals percentage, Kraken actually ranked better than the Colorado Avalanche. Now, the issue with the Kraken is they have a goaltending issue. Probably the weakest goaltending team in the NHL playoffs. Martin Jones and Philip Grubauer, probably going to be Grubauer for their goalie in the postseason. Both of them have sub 900 save percentages this year. Not good, but if one of them can step up at least a little bit here, Kraken might have a shot. I'm going to take them to upset the Avalanche in the first round at plus 210. Moving on, I'm going to take another upset, and it's kind of a similar argument. I'm going to take the Kings 2-1 against the Edmonton Oilers. Another spot where, yes, the Oilers should be favored, but I think they're favored by too much to win this series. If you look at Corsi percentage, Fenwick percentage, expected goals percentage, both teams rank inside the top 10 this season, and the Kings actually outrank them in Fenwick percentage, which, if you don't know, is the same as Corsi percentage, but you take out blocked shots, since there is some skill to blocking shots. And this Kings team has also been great defensively, third in expected goals against over their last 25 games. So if there's going to be a team that's going to shut down Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers' potent offense. It's a team like the Kings who have played very well defensively. So once again, not going to say the Kings should be favored, but I think the odds for this game are way wider than they should be. I think the Kings might be able to give the Oilers a little bit of a run here, and I don't trust the Oilers' goaltending as well. Stuart Skinner going to be in net for them. He did play well at the end of the year, but he was hot and cold throughout the season. Certainly not a goaltender that gives me a ton of confidence to get the job done. Meanwhile, Jonas Korpisalo, has been red hot since being acquired by the Kings. They traded for him there close to the deadline. .921 save percentage, I think it is, since being acquired by the Kings. So I think they're worth a shot at 2-1. I think they can upset the Oilers and get the job done in the first round. Let's move on. There we go. We're halfway through. We got 4 more series to go. We're going to go back to the Eastern Conference for this one. The Carolina Hurricanes -205 to beat the New York Islanders. Now, you guys know that I am married to the advanced analytics. Well, if you've been listening to me talk about the Carolina Hurricanes all season, then it should come as no surprise to you that I love them not only to win this series, but to win the Stanley Cup. This season, they led the NHL in Corsi percentage. They led the NHL in Fenwick percentage. They led the NHL in expected goals percentage. And then they're second in the NHL in high danger scoring chances percentage. Now, the issue with the Hurricanes is that they're kind of like the complete opposite of the Boston Bruins, where their advanced numbers are the very best in the NHL, but their simple numbers, the shooting percentage and save percentage numbers, not that good. So, do you want to trust the advanced numbers? Then you back the Hurricanes to win the Cup. If you want to trust the simple numbers, shooting percentage and save percentage, back the Bruins. It really is somewhat that easy, but yet I'm sure it won't be once things shake out. Now, in terms of their series here against the Islanders, I think the Islanders are the worst team in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. They shouldn't have really even made it. They only did because the Penguins just puked all over themselves and choked it away right at the end of the year. Lost to the Blackhawks with the playoffs on the line. And out of all the NHL teams in the playoffs, the Islanders dead last, out of the 16 teams, 16th out of 16 in expected goals percentage heading into the postseason. So I do not trust them whatsoever. I will take the Hurricanes -205 to, I think they're going to handle the Islanders with ease. Although Ilya Sorokin, the Islanders goaltender, does give me a little bit of concern because, like I always say, a goaltender can carry a team pretty far in the NHL playoffs. But regardless, I'll take the Hurricanes -205. Next upset here. I'm going to take the Winnipeg Jets to upset the Vegas Golden Knights. I think this is a 1 versus 8 series in the Western Conference, and I think the betting odds indicate what the true story is here. The Golden Knights are not a good number 1 seed in goal differential even, and this kind of displays it as well. I think they're 4th or 5th in the Western Conference in goal differential. They managed to win close games, but there's nothing about their game that gives me a lot of confidence. Not great defensively for the majority of the year, not great offensively. I don't trust their goaltending. I don't trust their shooting. They are a pretty fraudulent number 1 seed. The Jets are similar to, they're kind of like the Islanders of the Western Conference. They are a team that hasn't been great in between the blue lines, but a team that can be carried by their goaltender, Connor Hellebuck, one of the best goalies in the NHL. I think he can carry them through at least this first round series, and I think the Golden Knights are fraudulent, and the odds kind of display that. A number 1 seed against a number 8 seed should be way wider odds in most cases if it's a true number 1 and a true number 8. Not the case here. I will take the Jets as underdogs, +140 against what I think is a fraudulent Golden Knights team. Next up, the Dallas Stars against the Minnesota Wild. I will take the Dallas Stars -140 in this one. Two very similar teams that maybe you want to look at betting the under in a lot of their games this series. Two very good defensive teams, two teams that are getting great goaltending, but the Dallas Stars have the much better offense. They outrank them both in expected goals for, and they outrank them by a pretty wide margin in shooting percentage. Stars are inside the top, I think they're 5th or 6th in shooting percentage, and the Wild are certainly in the bottom 10. The Dallas Stars have been good in the playoffs the past couple of years, but their lack of offense has kind of screwed them a couple times. But lately, they've always been a good defensive team. They have Jake Ottinger, one of the best young goaltenders in the league. This year, though, they have the offense to go along with their defense. I love the Stars, not only in this series, but generally in the playoffs. I think it's a pretty good price we're getting on them to beat the Minnesota Wild in the first round at minus 140. Which leads me to, of course, the final and most important series of the first round of the NHL playoffs. I wish I didn't have to bet on this series, but I'm going to anyways. I will take my Toronto Maple Leafs, minus 155 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, do you want to trust the numbers? Do you want to trust the eye test? Everything that you see about these two teams, it should be the Maple Leafs that should win the series. They've been the better team this season. The Lightning have depth issues. Vasilevsky hasn't been the same goaltender he used to be. They've kind of aged a little bit. The Maple Leafs have the best team that they've had the past few years. I firmly believe that. At least defensively, they've had the best team. Now, they got some issues in goaltender. Can Samsonov stay healthy? Who knows? But obviously, the storyline is, can the Leafs finally win a series? Haven't won a first-round series since 2004, I think it is. They've done nothing but blow series. 3-2 lead against the Lightning last year. Lost in Game 7. Lost to Lightning, the year before that as well. Lost to the Montreal Canadiens when they had a 3-1 series lead. Blew that. Lost 3 straight games. Had a 4-1 Game 7 lead against the Bruins back in 2012, I think it was. Allowed 3 straight goals, lost in overtime in Game 7 of that series. They've done nothing but blow leads and choke, and it's obviously in their head, especially with this group of players, that they haven't been able to win in the first round. Can they get it done this year? I think they can. I think the skill and talent gap is just too wide between the Maple Leafs and the Lightning this year. I think the Maple Leafs can get it done. Now, can they win the next series against probably the Boston Bruins? That's a whole nother story. That would be very fitting for us Leafs fans to, we finally get a playoff series, but then we have to face the juggernaut Boston Bruins and get our asses kicked, or lose in a heartbreaking fashion against them again. Boston sports teams have haunted me my entire life, and I'm sure they will again this year. But I will take the Maple Leafs. I think they do finally get the first round win. I would not advise tailing that pick. I would advise you to take the Lightning. I'm biased. I can't help it. So there you go, my series picks. Bruins minus 320 against the Panthers. Rangers plus 100 against the Devils. Kraken plus 210 against the Avalanche. Kings plus 200 against the Oilers. Hurricanes minus 205 against the Islanders. Jets plus 140 against the Golden Knights. And Maple Leafs minus 155 against the Lightning. Stars minus 140 against the Wild. Now, as I said at the top of the show, I'll show you my bracket. Let's talk a little bracket action. You can fill out a bracket over on NHL.com. I didn't start a pool or anything. But I did fill one out. Let's see if I can share my screen here. If I bring... Ooh, look at that. Ooh. If you're watching you have to kind of watch the YouTube version of the show to see my bracket here. I'll try to talk through it. But there you go. I just made myself a small little in the corner, and now you're staring at my bracket. So first thing you're going to see there, my Stanley Cup final prediction. I have the Carolina Hurricanes defeating the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup final. I have a Stars 25-1 ticket. I have a Hurricanes 10-1 ticket from the start of the year. That would be the dream scenario for me. Or the Kings. I also have a Kings 25-1 ticket. But I think the Dallas Stars can get it done. The Avalanche are getting a lot of hype for no good reason outside of being the defending champs. The Edmonton Oilers are getting a lot of hype because of Connor McDavid, but I don't trust their goaltending. But I do have the Oilers going to the conference final. Dallas Stars, I actually think, are the most complete team in the Western Conference, and they finished the season with the highest goal differential in the Western Conference as well. So some numbers there to back it up. The Hurricanes winning, you've already heard me rant about them. They lead the NHL in basically every single advanced analytic. For my bracket, I did take the Leafs beating the Bruins just because I couldn't bring myself to clicking on the Bruins to beat the Leafs, but then I have the Leafs losing the Eastern Conference Final, which might be even more fitting. But actually, I think I would be completely happy with the season if we win a first-round playoff series and then beat the Boston Bruins and break their hearts. I don't even know if I would need a cup after that. First-round series upsets, I got the Kraken winning in 7. Or I'll just go through what I have for my first round. I got the Kraken winning in 7, Stars winning in 6, Jets winning in 6. I do have the Oilers winning in 5. I took the Kings because I do think they have betting value if we're just talking about betting, but from a bracket perspective, I am going to take the Oilers to win in the first round. let's see. Maybe Connor McDavid just takes over that series. That's certainly possible. And then I have the Stars beating the Kraken in the second round. I have the Oilers beating the Jets in an all-Western Canada matchup in the second round. And then I have the Stars beating the Oilers in the Western Conference Final. In the East, I have the Bruins sweeping the Panthers. I have the Maple Leafs beating the Lightning in 6. I have the Hurricanes sweeping the Islanders. I have the Rangers beating the Devils in 7. Game 7, the Battle of the Hudson River, is going to be fun if it does go to Game 7. And then I have the Maple Leafs beating the Bruins in the second round. How cathartic would that be for the Maple Leafs to beat the Bruins in the second round? Oh my God. I'd cry. And then I have the Hurricanes beating the Rangers in the second round as well, and then the Hurricanes beating the Leafs, and then the Hurricanes beating the Dallas Stars. No two cities scream hockey more than Dallas and Carolina. So there you have it. This has been my NHL playoff preview episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Rate and review the podcast if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or anywhere else you're listening to it. Best of luck with your bets throughout the playoffs. I'll be giving out picks throughout the postseason, and I'll be back with some series picks at the conclusion of the first round. Gamble or bless. I'll talk to y'all later.